You don't cause breakthroughs for yourself inside of a comfy rut. You know, if you think about the times when you have grown the most, when you have developed the most, you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You may not like it. You know what I mean? In the moment when you're in it, you're like, this is wild. I don't really. But you get on the other side of it and you have grown so much and you know yourself to be able to achieve this, and this.
I'm not afraid to write a brand new story. And when changes find their way to me, I can keep it moving. I'm not afraid to celebrate my glory. And when challenges grace my path, I know I can face another day. Inside, I rise, daring to learn. With Fox After 40.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Fox After 40. We focus on all things women's wellness. Today, I have a very good friend of mine, Shirley McAlpine here to discuss leadership after 40 and women who might want to get into those executive roles and might need some executive coaching. But before we get into that, I kind of want to give you a little bit of background about how I know Shirley. So Shirley and I were in a mastermind program together, and I just loved her perspective on the world. I loved her wisdom, her insight, and we just kind of became fast friends, and we just would have long talks here or there whenever we would meet up for our mastermind. And I knew she worked in leadership, and I knew she did coaching, but I was on her podcast, She's Got Drive, which I love. It's about inspiring women, motivating them, and then just like really empowering them to lead. So welcome to the podcast, Shirley. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to our conversation. So.
Likewise. Let me get my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So Shirley, can you give me your background? Like where are you from? What'd you do? How'd you get started? And definitely start all the way back from where you're from.
Like way back.
Like, I mean,
How far back?
In your 20s or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from London. And I live in Chicago because that's the other thing. I live in the States. I want to say that up front because most people think I live in the UK, right?
Yeah.
But I've been here in the States for 12 years. And my work goes back about 3 decades at this point. So I started off working in learning and development inside of organizations. I worked in a hospital. I worked in economic regeneration, looking at how to get long-term unemployed people back into work. That's where was my first like training job, and supporting and coaching people to kind of grow in confidence so they can go after work. When you've been long-term unemployed, you know, it gets hard. And then I worked in a hospital as the learning development manager, and then I worked in a not-for-profit running a program for Black and Asian high achievers. It was a management development program. At that point, I started to think about whether I wanted to continue to work inside of an organization. And I did one more gig in a small boutique consultancy. And that's where I got trained on consulting. I started to like cut my teeth on delivering large scale training programs. So we worked for delivered training programs for the government departments. So, you know, there'd be like 50, 60 staff in the program and doing massive rollouts in large government departments. And then they got a contract with the police service in the UK. It's a long story but
it's okay.
There was a murder of a young black teenager in the UK that turned into a big, massive inquiry, the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. And as a result of that, there was like 97 recommendations to the police on how they could engage with the communities and improve how they investigated cases. And so there was some preferred consultancies that were working with the police, and I was working on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did that for 2 years, and then it just got too much. I couldn't do it anymore. So I worked with a lot of police services up and down the country. But it was a great training ground because it was about how to have really challenging delivering training and development in a very challenging circumstances, and then working with like supporting the communication between the community groups and the community leaders and the police service. So after I did that, I decided that I didn't want to work inside of an organization anymore, and then I would freelance. Okay. And that I was like, what's the worst that can happen? You know, I was single, obviously. I had my own house and car, and I had payments, I had commitments, but I wanted to try doing it myself, and I'd always had roles that were new roles anyway. So, and I never looked back. And so I've worked for myself for nearly 3 decades at this point.
Okay, wow. So you're in London in your 20s.
Yeah.
And when did you start? So you were a consultant. You were an independent leadership consultant for corporations, right?
Yeah.
And when did you move to the States?
In 2013.
Okay.
So I was like, I had deep, I had been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
By the time, and I'd had 2 kids at that point too. And the beauty of being freelance at that time was, as a mother, I had the flexibility to mother in the way that I wanted to. I mean, oftentimes people think about that in terms of not having the income flow like you would normally do, and the kind of benefits that you get when you're working. Yeah. But the other side of it was I determined when I took a break, I determined how much time, like I was always able to pick my kid up. I'd never had to negotiate any of that, but my days were long.
So it's interesting when you say leadership coaching, right? Can you color it for me? Because you say you're a consultant, right? But if, I'm pretending like I'm someone in the audience. I don't really know what that means. You know what I mean? And I don't know who you did it for and what that looks like, what corporations, if it was for small businesses, if it for big businesses, if it was executives coming to you, learning how to lead. Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, it's good. It's so wide range. So executive coaching is, most people think about coaching, they think about life coaching. Yeah. They think about, someone coaching on how to have the life that you want. And executive coaching is what kind of leader do you want to be? How to be the leader that you want, how to cause the results of your business through your people in the most effective way. Because people are often catapulted into leadership, not because they're really that strong a leader necessarily, but they're good at experts at what they do, and they kind of get promoted, and before you know it, they're now accountable for a team. They've got to produce the results through other people, or they get promoted and now they've got a bigger strategy that they've got to cause, and they've not really had enough development or time. And the more senior you become, it gets lonelier at the top, right? Yeah, so for sure. Having a place where people can reflect and then and look at what do I need to do and how do I need to grow and expand in order to fulfill the purpose, get the most out of my people, motivate my people, and then be the best leader that I can be, which is essentially the work that we're doing when we're working together. And so that's leadership coaching. And then leadership consulting or organizational development is what's the culture in which, so when we work in organizations, there's an environment that's either going to be for you winning and for you thriving, or there's going to be some things that are happening in the environment that's going to be a barrier to that. Yeah. So working with organizations to see what's the environment like and how does it support people with being their best and doing their best work, or what are the things that gets in the way of them doing their best work. So I work with organizations to support them with creating a culture that's inclusive, creating a culture that's caring, that's developmental, and then removing those things out of the way that doesn't help that.
What do you find are the biggest challenges for Black women who want to be in leadership to get there? You know what I mean? What are some of the things you see? I've seen hundreds of people, and it's like they pretty much all struggle with this thing.
An environment that wants them to win.
Okay.
I've coached across the gamut, all different cultures, genders. When I'm coaching Black women or women of color, one of the things that we're working on what's the next stage of their development. Okay. That's one thing. But we're also working on what's the crap that they deal with at work. Can I say that? Yeah. Crap? What the bullshit that they're dealing with at work, and how do they overcome that? How are they dealing with that? So whereas when I'm coaching men or white men, I'm not dealing with that. We're not having conversations around this that's happening. That's like the patterns that come your way because you're a Black woman, because you're a woman of color, because you're a woman, and because we are socialized to see leaders in a particular way from the very beginning. And therefore, when they are leading, they are getting confronted with those various types of discrimination as it shows up, the barriers, the microaggressions, the macroaggressions, because sometimes they're not micro, they're macro.
Yeah.
And so even if you've got women who are performing well, doing great work, and then they get passed over for promotion, for example, even though they were the next in line, you know, they've been there, then we've got to deal with, how does she deal with that? What decisions is she making around that? Does she stay? Does she go? Is this a place for her? Is it a healthy place for her? So many women then have lots of illnesses or losing their hair. The number of women of color who lose their hair, alopecia is, you know,
and it's definitely stress related too.
Yeah, and so it becomes normalized for the women. So it's part of it is to intervene and say, this isn't normal. This experience you're having isn't normal. It doesn't have to be this way. There are other places that you could work in that doesn't give you that. So there is so many, and it crosses all industries. I've worked with women leaders across all different industries, large not-for-profits and for-profits, foundations, small organizations. The stress is real. And so part of it is women leaders learning to take care of themselves as they do their work and prioritizing their self-care. And I don't mean like the beauty type stuff that we do, you know, like which is, you know, pampering, which is all important and great, and I love it. And there's sleep, there's what we eat, there's exercise, there's, you know, stress management, those things that is also part of it. So even though we're talking about leaders, it's like, here's a whole person and we got to take care of ourselves.
So then you recommend finding a place that you feel welcome, right?
Totally. So many women stay too long in a place that's not serving them.
Okay. And after they're in a place where they're thriving, right? And it's a good environment, what would you say is the next thing that you see often women deal with that they struggle, that prevents them from being like the best leader they could possibly be? If you've enjoyed this episode of Fox After 40 and want to get notified about the next episode when it drops, make sure to go to CurlMix.com and sign up for our mailing list. We'll notify you whenever a new episode comes out.
Oh, getting in their own way, you know?
How do you mean?
Well, because, you know, if you're in a place that's more, where you've got supportive leaders, then you can ask for more and you can demand more.
Yeah.
You can go after more. And so sometimes women hold themselves back in the self-belief, like, am I really that person? Can I really take that on? And the other thing is, what happens to the people that I quote unquote leave behind? You know, so it's a trade-off in terms of that. You know, there's a person that, you know, particularly if you're from a working class background, you know, there's a person that you know that you're familiar with in the community that you love, and you can get fearful of, if I go here, if I achieve that, then I'm going to leave something that's really important to me. So women can get in their own way.
I love that you said women can get in their own way, because I actually, I posted a video of me dancing, like shaking my butt on the internet the other day. And years ago, I would have never posted that, right? But I'm like, I would like to be my full self online. I would like for the people who I meet to know that that's also me. And it's not like you're meeting this version of me all the time.
Right.
And I got a couple comments from women are like, you know, why are you basically like, why are you doing that? Or like, they don't like it or whatever. And I just find that women police other women so much more than men do. And it's insane to me, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes I just think, you know, there are times when I've been in spaces and you know you want to do a nod, you want to do some acknowledgement, and it's not coming back, and you think, did you not get the memo? It's just like, there's so few of us in this space. Come on, let's like connect, because it matters so much. Community is so critical for our success.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And so I feel like I'm not sure why we do that in that way. I'm not sure why we police each other in that way, but it's certainly some women can act like there's not enough space for all of us, and then or they have like some opinion about what you're supposed to do as a leader, as a CEO, as a this, as a that, and it's too limiting.
I think oftentimes women can grow up in very conservative backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
and they're told they have to dress a certain way, look a certain way, act a certain way. Right. And if I see another woman doing that, the opposite, it's like, well, I was told that we can't do that, so
Right.
like you can't do it either. Rather than being like, oh girl, do your thing. You know, if that works for you, works for you. But I would love to know. I had a question. It was good too. Oh, yes. As someone who specializes in leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm not ready or I can't afford one-on-one coaching right away,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I want to get that leadership role in my job. I want to learn more about how to be a better leader. Are there some books that you recommend on leadership that you're like, oh, this is one that I feel like everybody should read because it's going to change your life and help you become, a better leader in general? Yeah.
There's a book that I use all the time.
Okay.
And I use it with my clients. And I know the authors who wrote it too, right? And it's called Becoming a Resonant Leader. And because it's a book which is like a self-study book. And there's lots of questions and exercises. And so you can walk through the chapters of that book and be doing reflective exercises. They allow you to explore who you are as a leader. It allows you to think about your models of leadership. And our models of leadership come from everywhere, from our parents, from our teachers, right? So people who've helped us. And so it allows you to think about that. It allows you to think about what's your noble purpose, where you're going, where you're heading, because that's your guiding star for who you are as a leader. Like, what are you here for? What are you leading in and for what? And so that's a book that I would recommend, and that's a book that I use a lot. So sometimes I send it to my clients to work through. We don't do everything, but we do certain exercises in it. I had one client that I had for a year that had that we did end up doing the whole book, and he had this huge transformation through that. So I would recommend that book. There's lots of leadership books, but that one is a good self-study book.
Are leaders born? Like, are you born?
Or are they made?
Yeah, are they made?
Such a good question. I believe you can develop anything.
Okay.
I think people can have the capacity to develop themselves. It takes commitment. It takes having a vision. It takes being able to go after stuff as well. So whilst there are some people where that leadership ability is cultivated when they're young, depending on your experiences, if you grow up in some challenging circumstances and you kind of get out of that, there's something that's been developed in you in order to do that.
Yeah.
But you have the ability to develop the skills as a leader. I mean, that's what I've been doing all these years. And some people who you would never imagine in the beginning are then leading significant efforts, and in wild circumstances, in really challenging circumstances.
Are there like early signs to know that you're a natural born leader? And the reason I ask that, so are you into zodiac signs at all?
A little bit. I'm an Aquarius.
Okay.
So a little bit, but not fully.
Okay. Well then, so it's funny. I've recently gotten into it, and there are cardinal signs, right? Like there's a leader of like each. There's air signs, earth signs. This is such a tangent. But like Libra is a cardinal air sign. I think Cancer is a cardinal water sign. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, and Aries is a cardinal fire sign. Okay. And I've typically found that the people I've worked with have one of those like in their big three in their charts. Okay. So it's like natural born leaders. So that's but I agree with you that it can be cultivated. Yeah. I do think it's hard. I think some people don't want to lead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
totally. Totally. I think the challenge is when people are like subject matter experts and they're pushed into a leadership role and they really don't want to. They're not interested in developing that. Yeah. That isn't what they're about. They just happen to have landed in that role because they're an expert in a particular area. And I think that's an issue. But I feel like there are signs of people who, you can see it in young people who are taking on volunteering, starting little businesses on the side, you know, where so there's little entrepreneurs running around doing amazing things. And you think, how did they even think about that? Not much less start it. And so there are signs.
How do you see ageism? Sorry. How do you see ageism impacting women over 40 who are going after leadership roles?
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hit a soft spot there. Oh, okay. I'll let you go.
I think when you're in organizations, you get to a point. I mean, this isn't it for me because I operate outside of organizations. I've been doing my own thing for years. So, yeah. But when you're in an organization, men get to lead for longer, older, you know, and women, there isn't an expectation that she's going to continue to lead when she's 70. I mean, dare we mention those that should not be mentioned who are leading the country?
Our current
right?
Leaders,
and how
administration.
Old they are, right?
Exactly.
And so, but women don't get that grace in the same way. And so so if a woman gets made redundant, for example, gets laid off in her 50s, then she's going to be concerned about, is she going to be able to pick up another role and so on. I don't think men are having that same experience at the same level. We and the boomers need to have some work to do to step aside, you know, at this point, right? But we have to, that's where the women, you know, my work with women is about how do we create the life that we want and go after it? How do we vision and dream that life and know that we have agency in that? And it doesn't mean we have a perfect life because there's lots of things that we cannot control, right? But there is lots of things that we can do and we can create. And if a woman believes that she has agency over her own life, it kind of doesn't matter what happens. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I'm always standing in like, what's the thing that I'm meant to learn even in the most difficult circumstances has been my mantra over the years. And there has been really difficult circumstances, but as I'm sitting in it, I'm like, okay, at some point I'm going to learn a lesson. It feels painful right now, but I will learn the lesson that's going to take me forward in some way. And that's because I believe I have agency over my own life. And I have felt that for a long time. And otherwise I wouldn't have left my job, you know.
Right.
But not everyone stands in that place, and it's available to everyone. So my work with women is like, how do you access that agency, know that it's available for you, and then take steps? And so we don't have to stay in organizations if we don't want to. There's lots of recovering lawyers and accountants, and, you know, because they're on that path and they're staying on that path, but really they want to write a book, or really they're an artist, or really they're a, you know, there's other things as a greater self-expression for them that they're not doing. And so my work with women is like, how do we step into our own brilliance and understand that we have the power to create our life.
If you've gotten any value from listening to Fox After 40, you learned a beauty tip, you've gotten advice, you've shared the episode with a friend, please do us a favor and leave us a review on Spotify and Apple. It goes a very long way in helping us continue to build the podcast. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. You know, I was looking at some research about menopause and how stress exacerbates all the symptoms, right? And so there was like recommending women slowing down work while they're going through it. And I saw the eyebrow twitch. I don't know if this is, you can tell me if you've never heard this before.
Slowing down, I've not heard that. Go on.
She said, no, girl.
No, I've not heard that. Just go on. No. I'm interested.
And basically, but you know, menopause ends, right? Like, it's not like you're going to be experiencing this from 40 to 80 years old. Like, it's like, it's a window. Have you seen that impact work and people's leadership and things like that? Or
menopause?
Yeah.
Listen, menopause is real, man. I had early menopause. So,
okay.
Yeah, I went through menopause. I was perimenopausal at 40. Okay. You know, and 45 went through my menopause. So,
any career shifts happen at that time?
So there's a lot of women at that point start to ask questions about, what about me? Because most women at that point have had children. Their children are like more grown, unless there are a few women who have them later in life, you know, but the kids are starting to, they can see the empty nest, okay, as they're going through it, if they're already not empty nesters, for those who have had children, right? And so now's an opportunity to step into something, not to withdraw, So you have to manage your stress. Absolutely. You have to take care of yourself. But it's an opportunity of growth and development happens in menopause as well. And we don't often talk about that. So I think when we spend more time taking care of ourselves and addressing that, we can also start to create, what's this next chapter of my life going to look like? Because now I don't have and I'm about to be an empty nester in about 18 months, right? And so part of that is for me is like, what is that life going to look like when I don't have a child at home who needs looking after? Now we're still mothering and we're still parenting, but we're parenting in a different way. They don't need us in the same way. And so that means I have more freedom. I'm expanding what I'm doing in this phase. And, so I think it's an opportunity. I'm not sure we don't present it as that in society. We spend a lot of time talking about the symptoms, and they are real, and they are, if you look at diet and exercise and stuff like that and acupuncture and lots of interventions, you can manage those symptoms well to varying degrees. Some women get it tougher than others. But there's another part of it that I think that we don't spend enough time on. And Christine Northrup's book, The Wisdom of the Menopause, talks about that, talks about the rewiring of the brain. Lots of women get divorced at this point. I mean, I'm not suggesting that women run and do that, right? But one of the reasons is because she's starting to think about this world I have dedicated my life for others. And now I want to focus on me. And sometimes that the relationship can't withstand the shift, Yeah. Can your partner move with you? Yeah. Your partner of however many years, whoever that is, move with you as you change and as you grow. Are you in a relationship that's based on a foundation of growth for both of you? Or have you been in a relationship where you have been in service of the other person? Yeah. So it's a huge time. But I think it's a great time too. But it is challenging if you don't know, if you're not cognizant of what's going on. Yeah. And there's some health challenges that can come up as a result of obviously the huge hormonal changes.
One of my last questions is more going to be around tactical things that people can do to become better leaders and kind of level up in their work. Yeah. Is there any advice you have for women over 40 who are tactical advice that they're trying to get better, become better leaders? So we talked about reading the book. Yeah. We talked about knowing yourself and things like that. What else would you advise?
I always do coaching, obviously. Yes. Coaching, putting yourself in development programs, putting yourself in retreats, taking yourself out of your norm situation, and so that you can develop. We can't, taking you outside of your comfort zone. You don't cause breakthroughs for yourself inside of a comfy rut. If you think about the times when you have grown the most, when you have developed the most, you are outside of your comfort zone. Yeah. You may not like it. You know what I mean? In the moment when you're in it, you're like, this is wild. I don't really. But you get on the other side of it and you have grown so much and you know yourself to be able to achieve this, and this. So when I'm always, at the beginning of the year, I'm always creating the next game for myself and the next sets of goals. So set goals for yourself and then look for how you can close the gap between those goals and where you are. Oftentimes people don't set goals. Even women who are running like companies or running business units and they're used to setting strategy and goals, but they don't do that for themselves in their whole life or their personal life. But I do that annually. Yeah. We do that as a family. Every year we sit and we look at, what does this year look for us? What do we want? We've reviewed the year before. And then because you can create, you dream. I encourage people to dream again. Like we did when we were kids. Yeah, you could be anything. And then when we get to a certain age, we stop dreaming. But dreaming, as Gloria Steinem says, dreaming is a form of planning, and which is one of my favorite quotes because it allows us to expand and then step into a future that is unpredictable for us. And that's what I want for women and it's available. And post 40 is such a good, listen, if anyone's afraid of aging, if you age well,
I age like you. I'm happy. Sign me up. You look great, Shirley.
Thank you. I'm 50. It was my 57th birthday.
Oh, congratulations!
2 weeks ago.
Happy birthday. Happy belated.
Thank you. It's just you can't do what you were doing. I have to eat differently. I exercise. You know, you just do things differently.
Real quick, Shirley, because you're just so fabulous. I'm wondering, like, what is your, like, beauty routine? Like, what do you, because you're so cute. I mean, you are so cute. You're always, like, fashionable. I see you working out online. I see you. You told me you did your hair last night.
Yeah.
Like, you're, like, you know, because people, when they think, the reason people are afraid of aging, they let men color what aging looks like for us. You know what I mean? It's like, you're in the house taking care of somebody else. Da, da, da. And it's like, when I see women have defined what aging looks like for themselves, and it's like, no, I actually, like, still do all the things. You know, and they look good. I'm like, I want to look like that when I'm 60. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Shall I tell you, the first thing I talk about vision.
And the reason I ask that is because I also think that's part of leadership. Like, if you look good, you feel good, I feel like you lead better.
Modeling. Yeah, totally. So I have a vision for myself at 90. And the vision in my mind is I'm on a beach and I'm doing yoga. Now, I don't practice yoga now. I used to, but I don't practice yoga now. But the fact is, I'm like 90, I'm on a beach and I'm flexible and I'm looking great. And I'm just like, there's movement and I'm in this beautiful place. That's a vision I have for myself at 90. And that's the thing that drives me, right? And then the other is, like, I've never dyed my hair because I've been going grey for a long time, right? But I love it. I love my grey. And the thing is like, I can't eat like I did when I was in my 20s and maintain the same shape and size. I mean, so I have to change what I'm doing.
Right.
I exercise. I do have osteoporosis,
okay,
you know, which is obviously a sign of aging, but I'm rebuilding my bone. And so I go to the gym, but I love being in the gym. You know, I think I look back and I think, I can't believe I didn't do it all those years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I only started like 6 years ago. And so I do strength training and I'm gluten-free. I've got a restricted diet, I'd say. But I work with a naturopath. I work with a nutritionist. I have the privilege to be able to do that. I understand that not everyone has access for funds for that, but there's lots of information online now. There's lots of free information that you can access that can be helpful. So I do that. And in terms of skin and stuff like that, I have to say, I'm like the people who are beauticians and all of that, they're going to die because I'm just like soap and water and I have like a very simple I really am. And I'm just like natural soaps. I like soaps that, you know, oatmeal, you know, the ones that
in fashion, you're always like dressed really, really well. I just love, my mum was a seamstress. Okay. My dad was a carpenter. You know, I grew up learning to sew and now make leather bags. Like, that's another thing. That's my side hustle that I'm starting to bring in. So I grew up with parents who took a lot of time and care about how they dressed and how they presented themselves. And in our family, that's a thing. And so that's what I grew up with. So that's for everyone. If you saw my siblings, we were all fabulous. She's like, we look good together. Fabulous. We look good together. I love it, Shirley. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is so helpful and insightful for women who want to be leaders or get better in their leadership, but also who want to look as good as you. Thank you so much. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to Fox After 40. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you check out CurlMix.com if you want to get this curly hair, okay? I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.